the Cradock Four issue back because after nearly 4 decades of lots of questions, unanswered questions for that matter, there is finally an inquest into the deaths of the Cradock Four, which officially began in the Eastern Cape city of Gqeberha today. The families of Fort Galata, Matthew Goniwe, Sparom Konto and Scelo Mhlaudi are hoping that this process will finally bring accountability for the brutal killings of the 4 anti-apartheid activists in 1985. And of course, this marks the 3rd official inquiry into the high-profile case, which has long symbolized the struggle for justice in post-apartheid South Africa. While previous investigations have pointed to police involvement, no one has ever been held criminally responsible. The Cradock Four, just for a bit of a background, were abducted and murdered during the apartheid regime's crackdown on political dissent. Their charred bodies were discovered near Port Elizabeth, now Gqeberha, in June 1985. This whole incident sparked national outrage and international condemnation. The first inquest in 1987 concluded that the men were killed by unknown persons, despite strong suspicions of police involvement. A second inquest held in 1994 during the early days of South Africa's democracy went further, determining that the security forces were responsible, but still did not identify individual perpetrators. 6 former apartheid-era security policemen later applied for amnesty before the TRC, but their applications were denied due to lack of full disclosure. Despite this, no prosecutions followed. And this inquest, which is now underway, is the result of years of lobbying by the victims' families and civil society groups demanding justice. Mpumelelo Zikalala is joining us on the line. He is he's a legal analyst and director at Zikalala Incorporation. Mpumelelo, nice talking to you again. Say, how are you?
Good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you so much. I mean, I was watching the proceedings today, the arguments on both sides. I got a little bit concerned when I heard one lawyer saying, this won't take us anywhere. I mean, those are not the exact words, but the lawyer was literally saying that those that were involved, most of them have passed on. So this might not necessarily yield anything new. And I know this is not a criminal case. This is an inquest, which will at the end determine whether there should be a criminal procedure to take place or not. Am I correct as a start?
They definitely are correct. In fact, it's a fact-finding mission in which the court is then saying, let me check if all the processes were followed to the T and procedures were followed to the T. Is there anyone that you can be able to claim? Is there anyone that you're going to be able to hold accountable? So it's like a public investigation. Ordinarily, the IO investigating officer would do that and then come and present it to court, but in this case, it's done publicly. Now, there's one thing which is important on that one, is the quality and the quantity of the evidence. Is it enough to pass the muster of a person being found guilty beyond reasonable doubt? And with the lapse of time, how is the quality and the quantity of the evidence going to be there? As the lawyer was saying it, if the people have passed on, then unfortunately, the only thing you can do is to expose the truth, and no one can then be held accountable.
And I was asking that question deliberately as to whether after other inquests have taken place and nothing literally has happened, or anybody been taken to task for it, can we really expect any different outcome?
Maybe just instead of shedding a bit of truth, maybe that's the only benefit in which you'll be able to gain from this. But what it does, again, it opens the door to litigation, civil litigation, and damages that can be claimed by the families, in which they'll come back and say, wait a minute, after 1994, that's when we achieved our democracy. The things were a bit better. In 1996, again, you're supposed to do something a bit better, but you failed to do so. If you've got information and results which are not satisfactory from you as a side of the state, why are you sitting and not doing anything instead of pushing this matter so that you are able to get the type of justice that you are looking for? If it were up to us as the affected families, we would have taken the matter further. But it's the state that can be able to do that. And even then, we need what is called another prosecutor, which then says the state will not prosecute this matter, then will take it over. But due to the state not doing its function as it was supposed to do, here we are now, the evidence is no longer available. Hence, we want to compensate it for the suffering that has happened to us.
How long do they take these cases? I mean, and to what extent do you really effectively get to the truth, the confession, other than creating a scenario, proving that this scenario that has been created is an accurate one, and therefore that scenario then being, I suppose, used as a pedestal to show that this is what really happened. I mean, is that how it works, by the way?
It's similar to that. In fact, it's two-phase, or there's a two-phase approach. Phase one is this inquest approach that is happening now. So within that one, it's as if the investigating officer is doing the investigation publicly. So they're presenting all the evidence and information and asking the court, in your opinion, do you think that there's a case in which someone is to come and answer to? If the court comes back and says yes, then the order is going to say, NPA, go and prepare this matter so that it comes back now when the NPA is in the driving seat in terms of those prosecutions. And then the NPA can be able to do that. But the problem with that is that you still have to arrest someone who's still alive. So if a person has passed on, unfortunately, there's no one that you can arrest. There's no one that you can bring into the accused box, and the matter will then fall flat. But what it does within that process is then it provides closure to the family in terms of saying, we've been saying all along that the current records as they are, they're inaccurate. We have now a record that has been accurately made. At least we can rest assured that our loved ones, they passed on in these circumstances, and we can pinpoint who was responsible for doing that. The third part is the one that I've explained earlier, of saying that I'm not going the same route because as the government, you certainly did not do anything, and I want to be compensated from all the pain that I'm suffering now. Had you done your job accurately in the first time around, you wouldn't be in the situation that you're in now.
Yeah, because I suppose that the answer lies with those that got the reports from the TRC. And decided not to do anything about it, because then those are the people that should really explain why is it that something was not done at that particular time. Two, I also think that probably, and I'm making political viewpoints here, which I'm not too sure about their extent of their relevance to the legal process. But those that were negotiating, when it comes to this issue, to what extent, where's the text that speaks to what they've agreed on in terms of pursuing people that were responsible? Because surely that discussion did take place.
In fact, I think we should look more at the political appointees that would have served within the Justice Department. Remember that amnesty has been refused, so it goes back to the arena of the NPA to say go and prosecute. So if the NPA is not going to prosecute, then they are the ones that should be blamed. So you look at all the directors that have been there from that time up until now, and you say to them, what have you been doing in this matter? Is it a case of the resources not being there, or is it a case in which you were negligent in the manner in which you handled the matter? So let's deal with you in that particular manner. But you can't leave out the politicians, because at the end of the day, they've been deployed there by the president to sort of support and to push through the agenda of the political party that they come from. Wouldn't they want to know what happened to their fellow comrades? If the answer is yes, then why didn't they do anything about this matter from now up until then? It's unfortunate that...
And if the answer is no, we need to find the reasons why they are not interested, isn't it? Because I think the answer to that question would be much, much more interesting, because that seems to be the case. They are not interested. They have never been interested in the first place.
Definitely. And I would love to see whether the previous directors are going to be called in this matter, whether the previous ministers are going to be called in this matter to then come and say, we are dealing with the inquest, but we're not going to sort of limit ourselves to the facts pertaining to this matter alone. We want to even know, when it comes to investigating this matter further, is it a question of that there was no political will of investigating it, or there were no resources that were there? We need a clear answer, which is what the family is looking for.
Got you. Thank you so much, sir. As always, we really appreciate your insights, Mpumelelo.
Thank you very much for
Thank you so much. Mpumelelo Zikalala, the legal analyst and director at Zikalala Incorporated.